access to or are attempting to get access to some of this technology from the UFOs so that they can patent it and own it, and that they can, own it. The shareholders can own it into the future, so that anybody who wants to get access to the information has to pay them. They have a very high motive to try to keep this secret. Now, that's one whole element, but it's a very effective element. And very importantly, they have untoward amounts of influence on, Michael Turner, for example, who is the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee.
Right.
And they have extraordinary influence over Michael Rogers, who is the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. Both of them come from districts where there's a heavy dominant influence by these private aerospace corporations and are major campaign contributors to those two people. That's rather a mundane dimension of this, but it's highly important. There's another element, however, which is the national security state people. The national security state people have an interest in securing and maintaining the secrecy over this whole realm because they want to be able to develop weapons and to utilize the technology for weaponry to establish dominion over all the rest of the other nation states on the planet. That's a terribly low consciousness motivation. But that's the job. Unfortunately, inside a national security state such as our country, they've been assigned that task. And so they're pursuing that task diligently. And they're working overtime to try to keep this secret so they can have a unique military advantage over what they view as their potential adversaries of China and Russia, primarily the nation states that are opposing a particular economic system that we have in the West. And so these are extremely low consciousness kind of motivations that are going on, but they're completely understandable in our world. And what we need to do at the New Paradigm Institute is we need to kind of mobilize the citizenry, not only inside our country, but around the world, to be able to lift our whole human family to the higher angels of our nature, to really try to be more interested in establishing a productive and positive and cooperative relationship with the people of this extraterrestrial civilization, rather than trying to figure out how to seize their technology and make weapons out of it.
Yeah, because and that's the problem in this world is, and that's why, I know as an attorney, so you've represented Lou Elizondo, and I'm not sure if you still represent Dr. Greer, but they both kind of their narratives are different. The Lou Elizondo is from the national. He looks at it as from the national security standpoint, whereas Dr. Greer thinks that it's all peaceful and we need to join the cosmic brotherhood. What is your take on that situation? I mean, we know that flowers, daisies, and all that's not going to get us defense funding and funding that we need for these programs, but we also need to be able to oversee these programs and know they exist.
Well, the fact of the matter is that both Lou Elizondo and Dr. Greer both agree to a substantial degree of wanting to have more disclosure. And so part of my job is not just with regard to those two individuals, but everybody, is to try to get everybody to yes on this thing. Of saying, look, the fact is the United States Congress is being lied to, by an element of the national security state. That not only are they concealing the information from them, they're actively lying to the United States Congress. They're refusing to brief presidents of the United States about this information. That is completely unconstitutional. It's completely violative of the most fundamental standards of democracy in our country. And I know that there's a lot of people who believe that a genuine belief in democracy is somehow idealistic and unrealistic and kind of, I guess that they consider it foolish. But the bottom line is, I don't believe that it's foolish. I believe that the future of our human family is rooted in the ability to have more and more democracy. And that I believe that, therefore, as Madison has pointed out, that in a democracy, an essential aspect of it is the knowledge on the part of the people to be able to self-govern. And so we have a need to know this information. And the bottom line is both Lou Elizondo and Dr. Greer and virtually everybody else that we work with in this field, including Dave Grush and others, they share a desire to get more and more information out to the people and to get Congress fully briefed in on what's going on. So there's a very important level of agreement that the fact that the different people may interpret this differently and it place different emphasis on it. For example, Lou Elizondo, his entire career has been inside the national security state infrastructure, and he's been raised and trained to believe that any vehicle coming into American airspace, or as they refer to it, American airspace,
right,
without the authority and subject to the military directions of our United States national security state, is somehow intrinsically a threat. But Lou goes at great lengths to point out that he doesn't mean that it's like they're threatening us or they've done anything to hurt us. But it's clear that if in fact you have the evidence that we clearly have now, that UFOs are flying over the top of our nuclear missile sites and shutting off nuclear missiles, that they're able to rise up out of the ocean and shut down our largest nuclear aircraft carriers, completely shut off all their propulsion systems, shut off all their electric communication systems, so that they're basically dead in the water. That this is anybody who's been raised inside the national security state is going to experience that as a threat. But the problem is that these people inside the national security state view any effort to impede our ability from the United States to establish full military spectrum dominance over the whole planet is a threat. Now that's a particular worldview, and that people who come from that particular worldview are obviously going to be viewed by people like Dr. Greer as being excessive. And that they're distortive of this whole issue. And on the other hand, people like Lou Elizondo and others who are inside the national security state, they look at people like Dr. Greer and others who they perceive to be over idealistic about the necessarily benign nature of people that are an extraterrestrial civilization that has been here for decades and has not, in fact, tried to dominate us, has not tried to take us over in any kind of direct way that anyone can tell. That military people view that as being Pollyanna-ish and naive. And so that they perceive each other, different people, not just these two individuals, but different people from different walks of life view this issue differently. Now, I've delivered entire lectures on this, about how people from their own particular worldview perceive this particular phenomenon, and it's unique to their own worldview. What we're trying to do at the New Paradigm Institute is to develop a new paradigm worldview that can see everything very realistically, very practically, and very pragmatically, but at the same time maintain our sense of optimism and our sense of idealism about being able to establish a positive and constructive and mutually beneficial relationship with the members of the extraterrestrial civilization. Now, we don't know yet exactly what, to one of your questions, we don't know yet exactly what the relationship is among these different species. We don't know yet whether they have some sort of a galactic federation of some sort, what kind of degree of cooperation they have with each other. But we do know that they've been coming and going, virtually members of at least 4 of these different species, and perhaps a 5th, this more human element. We know that. We just don't know yet, what their relationship is with each other, and we don't know to what degree any aspect of our national security state has established communications with them and worked out any kind of either de facto or de jure treaty relationships with them or any understanding. We don't know. We don't know. That's one of the important roles of the New Paradigm Institute. That we've conducted major investigations. The Romero Institute, which is the 501c3 mothership of our New Paradigm Institute, we conducted major investigations in the past. In the Iran-Contra case, we're the ones that uncovered the weapons smuggling, the drug smuggling, the violations of the Poland Amendment. We're the ones that investigated the secret shipping of nuclear weapons materials to Israel out of the Kerr-McGee nuclear facility. We've conducted these investigations over the past 50 years that have put us in a position of being able to help make this information available to our people so we can make public policy decisions. And that's what we're engaged in here. We're trying to find out what it is that's going on. We may be viewed by some people inside the national security state bureaucracy as adversaries because they view the efforts on the part of the American people to find out about what's going on as adverse to their interests. But we've conducted ourselves completely lawfully within all the normal restrictions with regard to national security information. And we're intending to get this information first to Congress, so Congress can make fundamental decisions as our elected representatives, and then to have Congress be able to make the decisions as to how much of this information should be and needs to be made available as soon as possible to our people of the world, while we at the same time adjust our major institutions and start to prepare our institutions to be able to integrate this information in as smooth a way as we can.
Right. And I think that's something that you're doing really well, as with what's going on right now. I really just, it's something that's going to have to come up eventually. And, whether it's a post admittance of that there is a non-human intelligence, but going back to, one of your first cases with John Mack, he was researching abductions, right? Alien abductions and contactees. So when we get to that question of the abductions, how do you foresee that? I know you don't like to speculate, but I mean, that's going to be a tough one for any president. And it sounds like in previous interviews that you are pretty sure that Biden will get a second term, and that will be the disclosure year or disclosure campaign, and that's second term.
Yeah. That's right. I believe that's true. No, I believe that this is, of course, one of the major issues that we need to come to grips with. That whatever people may think about our institute and what we've done over the last 50 years is that there's no question whatsoever about our support for individual human dignity and human rights. I mean, we are major human rights advocates, and have defended and represented people for decades now in protecting fundamental rights. And as I say, I was the co-founder of the Harvard Civil Rights Law School. And so we are ardent advocates of the rights of individual people not to be subjected to involuntary abduction, and certainly not involuntary surgeries, where women have their eggs removed and involuntarily subjecting their eggs to cross-fertilization. That's a discussion, a clear discussion that we have to have face to face with members of this extraterrestrial civilization. It's one of those kind of tough discussions we have to have with them. We intend to have that conversation with them. It's not that they don't know that we don't agree with that. But you hear it over and over and over again. It's like the apes objecting to the fact that that we capture them and that we interbreed chimpanzees and that we treat them like lab animals. And given the fact that these extraterrestrial civilizations appear to be so much more advanced than we are technologically, that they may in fact be less than entirely sensitive about our rights, and that we need to have the new paradigm has to be able to get them to agree to grant greater degrees of liberty and judgment over our own bodies. But the fact is, there may well be a lot of people who would be perfectly willing to make their sperm available and make their egg cells available to have them be,
Yeah.
doing interbreeding to